Well, welcome to tonight's program, Culture and Languages in Gap Years. This is a recorded session that you will receive a link to after the event. However, if you're joining us now, you'll have the opportunity to pose questions to our fantastic panelists at the end. You can do so at any time with the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen at the bottom. My name is Drew Beasley, and as the USA Gap Year Fair's Outreach and Events Coordinator, I want to extend a huge thank you to spending your evening with us. A little bit about who's speaking at you. I'm both a Gap Year alum and an experiential programs leader myself. I've witnessed just how life-changing gap time can be for myself, as well as scores of other students I've worked with. As you can see from some of these pictures on the screen, I've had tons of meaningful travel experiences, from teaching English in Prague to leading treks in national parks and volunteering in South America. However, I had no idea that I wanted to do any of this until I took a gap year in college. So believe me when I say that I'm so excited for you to join us tonight and begin planning your journey, hear from gap year experts, learn about different gap year options, and have the opportunity to ask our fantastic panelists questions with gap year programs from all over the world. Before we do get started though, I just wanted to note that this information session is part of USA Gap Year Fairs, which is powered by GoOverseas.com. Go Overseas is a community-centered resource for all different types of travel experiences. You can think of us as Yelp, but for meaningful travel programs. You can visit Go Overseas to read verified alumni reviews, find programs, browse articles and guides, and learn about scholarship opportunities, including the $5,000 Gap Year Scholarship that closes March 15th. If you find today's session to be helpful, you're in luck, because we have no shortage of resources to help you continue your gap year exploration. In the chat, I will link corresponding resources that I'll touch on today. First up is our digital guide. This virtual catalog is your best bet to familiarizing yourself with some of the most fantastic gap year program providers. You can get to know programs at a glance by their location, program offerings, and emphasis. If all these programs make your head spin, we recommend you start with our Gap Matcher. This customizable quiz can help you find your top programs to consider based on your interests. Next up, we've got more ways to interact and meet programs. Did you know that today's virtual event is one of many? You can join us for our virtual gap year exploration series, which will highlight different gap year providers and their program emphasis. This is an especially great series of event if you already have an inkling of what you'd like to do in your gap time, or if you're open to new ideas. So now I'm very excited to welcome our fantastic panelists this evening, including Stephanie of World Strides, Nick of AHA, and Arancha of Spanish Gap Year. Before we hear about their lovely programs though, we're gonna hear from Julia. Julia has more than a decade of experience as a gap year expert matching young adults to programs of their dreams. Julia is also the head of the outreach committee of the Gap Year Association and a member of the board of directors. Take it away, Julia.
Thank you, Drew. Drew and I work together in a lot of those capacities, and it's really great to be here tonight to kind of offer a little bit of an anchoring for the conversation that we're having. I think that a lot of you are visiting tonight to learn about arts and culture and language opportunities on Gap Year, which I see as a very popular and maybe increasingly popular way of spending gap time. Although it is kind of almost like the original type of gap year experience to go and to seek out new places, new ways of living, and to see great works of art and to open up yourself creatively as you enter adulthood. So a little bit about me, Drew, you can advance the slide. Just as far as, my entree into the gap year space, the top photo on that slide is actually me on my gap year. I think that's something that you'll hear a lot from people who are in the gap year world, is that many of us had very formative experiences of our own, and mine certainly was. I spent almost a year in Tanzania doing public health outreach. And the kind of key difference or activator of my gap time was that I actually took it after college. So I did kind of my 4-year undergrad degree, and then I did my gap year experience in Africa. And I came away from that experience really wishing that I had done my gap year before college. So for any of you out there who are kind of vacillating on this concept of taking gap year before college, or think that you can just do it any time in life, I have to say that I still really believe that that kind of special time in your life between high school and higher education is the ideal time to take this period of personal growth, because it will allow you to make really intentional choices and gain clarity before your higher education journey. So that is, I think that I'm definitely, my own experience now colors how I feel about the gap year option. But now I am, very pleased and honored to be able to speak to so many other types of gap year opportunities besides the one that I experienced myself. So my work as a counselor includes vetting programs, so getting to know programs, understanding the ins and outs of different opportunities, both structured as well as unstructured, and then walking students through the planning process and then supporting them on their gap time. So that's, if any of you worked with a college counselor to help you plan your gap year, or worked with a real estate agent to help you find your home, I'm kind of that for gap years. Now, Drew, you can take us to the next slide, which will offer a little bit of context for this evening's conversation. And that is really just redefining what a gap year is. You may have come across this definition before or a similar definition, but I define a gap year as an extended period of personal growth or experiential learning, particularly geared around personal, practical, and professional awareness. So the idea here is that it is this intentional choice that you make. A gap year is not just something that happens to you on accident. It's something that you really say deliberately, hey, I am taking this period of time for myself to, again, like kind of have a rite of passage into adulthood. And that is really what helps ground us into making these choices that are not just, again, like a blind Googling and then choosing and applying to a program, but really thinking about what it is you want out of your gap year. And I'm guessing that those of you who are on this call have that kind of, you're drawn to the arts, you're drawn to cultural experiences, and that's why you've chosen this particular panel to join tonight. So you're starting down that road of being intentional in your choices about your gap experiences, which is perfect. So next up, on the next slide here, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the four quadrants that I think are really important when it comes to gap year planning. So, I sometimes will talk about how to plan a gap year for up to an hour if you let me, but I'm going to really condense it for tonight for all of you because we have so many wonderful programs that I want you to hear about. So this slide is basically the most condensed version of gap year planning that I can offer you. And so if you kind of think about these four things, you'll be well on your way to planning that intentional year that I just highlighted. So the first thing that you want to do, and this is a family conversation, it's about parameters. So a student and their family kind of sit down around the dinner table and talk about what it is that student hopes to do on their gap year. And the family, the parents or caregivers who are involved in their planning also offer their boundaries. And so this is really a conversation where you lay out budget, where you lay out geography and hard stops. And really, parents who may be listening on this call, I advise you to kind of give your young person as much breadth as possible within your own comfort zone, and let them plan and execute a gap year within what you think is reasonable, both monetarily as well as, geographically or types of experiences that they want to do. A young person may say like, oh, I want to hike the Appalachian Trail, or I want to backpack through Southeast Asia on my own. And that might sound initially like a tall order or a tall task, but a gap year really is around scaffolding your year in a way that allows for those more like higher level goals to take shape maybe later in the year. And that's progression. So when we talk about progression, we want to talk about having more structured opportunities kind of at the beginning of the year, and then edging towards more challenge or independence as the gap year moves along. So everybody is going to be starting at a different point. Some students may have traveled abroad on their own or done a high school exchange program and be ready for more independence or less structure right at the beginning of their gap time. Whereas other students may really want a more structured and supported program so they can feel more secure traveling away from home and building social skills, or having, some of those other aspects of a logistically put together program managed for them. So there's no wrong way to start a gap year. It's really customized to the particular student, their experiences, and what they want out of their gap time. But I always advise people to think about, structuring a gap year with that kind of increasing levels of independence and challenge, so that by the end of it, a student can be that much more mature, independent, and ready for the next stage of life. And one just short anecdote that I'll share, because I think it is top of mind today, is that I was having a debrief with one of my students who's currently on her gap year. And she did a more structured program in the fall with a kind of adventure travel program. And she was traveling throughout the United States, doing service learning and adventure travel, came home and worked for a few months. And then she actually was just coming back from New Orleans, where she went and helped build houses in the lower 9th Ward for 2 months. And so that experience was much more independent, much more challenging than her first program. But I have to tell you, when I was talking with her today, she sounded like 5 years older than when I first started working with her. And it was so it was amazing to hear. And I think that it's even more amazing for parents to witness that growth in their own kid, and for you as a student to witness it in yourself. So just enjoy that ride. It's really amazing. And so the kind of third quadrant is geography here, where you're thinking about where in the world is possible, where in the world is desirable. You might be thinking about languages you might want to practice, art that you might want to see, places and cultures that you just are drawn to, or practically speaking, like, you know, where in the world you have connections or family, friends, things like that. And of course, a gap year does not need to be taken abroad. There's plenty of things that you can do domestically that are, you know, wonderful and amazing. The most important thing I always say is that you leave the bubble of where you grew up. That can mean just going across town, but it's about having an intercultural experience and kind of seeing and meeting new types of people. So lastly, and the anchors are really what bring it all together, but this is essentially goal setting for your gap time. And I kind of link back to my definition when I talk about goal setting, because I think that students, to have a holistic gap year, you really think about goals in 3 different categories, and that's personal, practical, and professional. So if a student thinks of 2 or 3 things in each of these categories, they'll be well on their way to being able to target exactly what they want to use their gap year for, and to find programs that help match those goals. And so the personal stuff is the things that you want to do for your own enrichment, for fun, just because it might be a lifelong skill and because it's enjoyable. The practical goals are going to be things around adulting, around building out skills that are going to be useful for those independent living later on in life. So getting a driver's license, learning how to cook, building out your social skills and leadership skills, anything along those lines are in the practical category. And then lastly, we have, you know, pre-professional exploration. So exploring career paths, doing an internship, anything that can kind of help a student explore and gain clarity around their potential career path. Not that they need to come away from their gap year knowing exactly what they want to do, but it's all about kind of setting that journey for them, that where they're really empowering themselves to make those decisions, and it's not just happening to them. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a framework to take away tonight from, so you can help build out a really amazing gap year that is personalized to you, because the great thing about gap time is that there's no one size fits all for it. So I'm going to end my segment with a little bit of resource sharing here. Once the slide advances, I'll explain. So just a couple of things for you to take away for next steps in your planning process. Go Overseas, which sponsors the USA Gap Year Fairs, is an amazing resource for finding programs and seeing reviews of programs. The Gap Year Association is our industry's kind of governing body. They accredit programs, they accredit counselors, and they also have a really robust program listing and student planning guide on that website. So great for kind of gathering more information and learning more about different opportunities. I also co-host a podcast with a friend, and we are going to be coming into our 8th season this spring. So check it out. It's called Gap Year Radio. And then I will drop my contact info in the chat, but you can find me many places. Physically, I'm in Vermont, but I work with students all over the country and even internationally as well. So I'm going to kick it back to you, Drew, and we can kind of check out some great programs now.
Thank you so much for that, Julia. Always so inspiring to hear. And believe me, I am counting down the days till Gap Year Radio Season 8.
Thank you.
With that, I'm super excited that now is time to hear from our panelists. So first up, we are going to hear from Stephanie from World Strides.
Hey all, so I'm Stephanie from World Strides, as Drew has so adeptly let you know. So what World Strides is all about, we are about a lifetime learning journey. So we actually have programs all the way from elementary school to adulthood. Our gap year program we specifically designed because higher ed education is changing, and having a gap year is just really a great way to learn about yourself, celebrate your accomplishments, and kind of just learn more about the world outside of your bubble, as Julia put it. So our gap year program specifically is going to be 12 weeks long. In that 12 weeks, you get to go to 5 different countries, and it is Europe based. So you'll get to go to Greece, Italy, France, Spain, and then take a quick little trip into Africa to Morocco. You also will get to do 8 different cities in those 12 weeks. And what makes our programs a little different is that you'll actually walk away with 12 college credits at the end of that. So you can transfer those to a college of your choice. If you're not looking for the credits, that's fine. We still give you the transcript and you get the great content, but you don't have to submit that anywhere. So basically you're going to start off your gap year in Athens, where you'll spend 3 weeks getting to learn the city of Athens. Weekends are your own. You'll take classes for half the day. And then again, the rest of the day is all your own to explore. Then we're going to take you on a 4-day excursion to Rome. You get to see everything in Rome you could possibly want to see. And then after that, another 3-week course in Florence. This one is my personal favorite. It's the food and culture of Florence. I wish I could go and take that class myself. From there, we take you on a 4-day excursion to Paris, and then next off to Sevilla, where you'll be taking an art history course. And then finally, you end the experience with 6 days in Morocco. You're actually going to go to Meknes, Fez, and Marrakesh. My favorite part of that is doing the Sahara Camel experience and actually spending some nights out in the tents in the desert. So like I said, you end up with your 12 credits at the end. You get to see just so much of Europe and all the famous places there you could possibly want to see. And you'll be doing that with our gap year employees. So we have a guide that goes with you throughout all of that, all of the travel. Different places, you will have a homestay, you'll have some student housing, hotels for the excursions, and then my favorite, of course, again, is that tent out in the desert. But yeah, we're just really passionate about giving students an education outside of the classroom, and that's sort of what you'll get with our program.
Calling all change makers, innovators, explorers, and environmental saviors. To anyone who always chooses the path less traveled. To those who want to see the world while redefining theirs. This was created for you. Your Worldstride Gap Year begins in Rome with a group of like-minded travelers, all designing their own future with the tools we provide. Next stop, the cities you choose and experiences built around person, place, and purpose. This is all about you and your journey. Experiences, events, and workshops all designed to find your authentic self and jumpstart your passions into action. From tech tools to launch your idea into the next big thing, to strategies to make college matter. It's all here. Whatever your direction, whatever is next, this is about making it count. You won't just visit cities, you will become a part of them. These modules uncover the rich cultures as well as the unseen challenges. Hear and see firsthand real-world issues, real-world solutions, real-world experiences. It's your future. Time to act like it. This is your purpose. By aligning with the UN Sustainable Development Goals for 2030, we are building a better and more sustainable future, and you can be part of it. Right now, the question you need to ask yourself is, why would I put my future in the hands of someone else? Isn't it time to flip the script? Time to take charge, level up, dare to undeclare. What do you say?
Thanks so much, Drew. And one thing I just want to clarify from that video, this was based on last year's experience. You will go to Rome, but that's not where you'll start. You'll start in Athens.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was so enlightening to hear. It makes me want to book my plane tickets to Europe right now. I did want to ask one quick question though before we do move on, and that is about the college credits. You had mentioned that with the Worldstrides Gap Year, you walk away, or you can walk away with 12 college credits. Could you explain a little more about how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So these credits, they're credited through the University of South Florida. As I mentioned, there's 4 courses that you'll take along the way. One is in Athens, which is actually just about global perspective and equality. The second one is Florence, and it's the art and culture of Florence. Third is going to be art and the history of Sevilla. And then the one that kind of goes over the whole 12 weeks is actually a kind of a course about you and the world, global sustainability, and kind of focuses in on, again, those professional and personal kind of goals that Julia talked about.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Next up, we're going to hear from Arantxa from Spanish Gap Year.
Hi guys, I'm having some issues with sound. Can you hear me? Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, please? Great. Thank you so much. Sorry, Drew, I missed your intro. My name is Arantxa Lopez, and I'm the program director of Spanish Gap Year here in Madrid. So before I give you program details, I'd like to show you a short video because these are our alumni from one of our fall cohorts. And I think it's always important to hear about programs from the Gappers' perspective. So if you wouldn't mind playing it, Drew, thank you so much.
I took my gap year just to grow as a person and really see a country. And through Spanish Gap Year, I was really able to do that. I never thought I would travel across the world, thousands of miles, and be able to just live another life for 3 months.
I absolutely loved every part of it. It's a great way to meet people, learn about the culture, experience new activities, new things.
We're living with people who are of all different sexualities, different backgrounds, different ages. And so you learn how to live in a close-knit group with these people, and that teaches you a lot about yourself.
We had people with all different backgrounds and different ways of life, and we all managed to work together and live together, and I think everyone had a ton of fun, made a ton of memories, and always had a smile on their face.
But this program has been exceptional in letting me set my own goals and achieving them.
You're not just traveling, you're almost moving to Spain and kind of really learning the culture. So you get to know almost every inch of Spain, and you get to see how different it is.
Being able to explore all of these incredible cities, these activities that were chosen for us were just incredible.
Just overall soak up the Spanish experience.
I've absolutely loved every part of the experience.
A ton of different places and a ton of different very cool experiences that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
There's a ton to be learned and a ton to take back home with you once you finish this trip.
Thank you so much, Drew. Thank you. Well, as I was saying, my name is Arantxa Lopez, and I'm the director of Spanish Gap Year. We have 2 semester-long programs. One is called Spain by Train, and the other one is called Future Leaders. They are both 12 weeks long. Spain by Train runs in the fall and again in the spring. So that's September, October, and November, and March, April, and May for Spain by Train. And Future Leaders will run for the first time in spring of 2024 in March, April, and May. So I'll talk to you about Spain by Train first. As I said, it is 12 weeks long, and it's a program that goes around Spain by train, as the title says. So it is divided in 3 bases and 3 trips. We all fly into Madrid, and we start in Vitoria, which is my hometown in the north of Spain in the Basque country. The town is called Vitoria, and it's the food capital of Spain. So that's where we do our first 3 weeks in homestay. That's where we introduce you to all your Spanish learning modules and Spanish culture modules. So we are very big on food and cooking. You will learn how to cook. And if you already know how to cook, you will improve your skills very, very much. We do that throughout the 12 weeks. So you do that weekly in every region that we go to. So Vitoria for 3 weeks, 1 week in the Camino de Santiago, 3 weeks in Salamanca in homestay again, 1 week in Madrid in group accommodation, 3 weeks in Granada, your last homestay, and 1 week in Barcelona. So that's for the itinerary. From one region to the next, we move by train, as we try to be as sustainable as possible. And once in the cities, we move a lot walking, because Spanish cities are luckily made for pedestrians. We use bikes sometimes. We use electric buses, trams, and the metro. But again, everything is very, very nearby in the cities that we go to. In terms of the learning modules, we are learning Spanish language and culture through interactive activities. It's very much project-based. So an example of what a week looks like is Monday to Friday, you're going to be doing 3 hours of activities in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. And on Saturdays, you go on a day tour. So somewhere nice near the base you're in. And then on Wednesdays, you get a half day off to do some solo exploring or resting, recharging. And on Sundays, you get a full day off. So we build a good bit of free time into the program as well. The day is split the Spanish way. So you have a longer lunchtime with your host family or with the group, depending on where you are. But we normally stop from 1 p.m. until 4:30 or 5, and then start the afternoon activity at 5. So that's for the structure. In terms of the content, we do a lot of cooking, as I said, but we look at Spanish history and architecture. We do a lot of artistic expression activities in all their forms. We do theater, we do filmmaking, painting, we go to museums, so we observe and do. And we have aligned our programs with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So we do modules on gender, on equal education and rights. We do a module on sustainability in terms of reducing our carbon footprint. And that is by partnering with local organizations who teach us about native species and allow us to plant trees for legacy going forward. That's for Spain by Train. This program grants you 8 credits that you can also transfer to university. And much like World Strides, you're not obliged to take them. You bring the transcript with you and you can submit or choose to opt out. And then we have Future Leaders. This one grants 5 college credits. Again, they are optional. And this program is very special because it combines internship experiences with an entrepreneurship program. So you're going to spend a month in Madrid and 2 months in Barcelona. In the first month, we're going to prepare you for your internship that is going to take place in Barcelona. So we're going to teach you what will be expected of you when you're at work. You're going to get ready for interview and do those interviews as well. And we will then match you with an internship of your choice. We have many choices available. And then you're also going to start your entrepreneurship program on the first month. And that's going to be working in teams to come up with business ideas that you'd like to develop. Each team is going to have a mentor. And so the 2 months that we spend in Barcelona will be spent developing those business ideas and doing your internship. So once you're in Barcelona, Monday to Friday, you're in your internship, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And in the evenings, you're going to do 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for entrepreneurship. So you'll be working with your peers and your team leaders to bring those business ideas to pitch that you do at the end of month 2 in front of a panel. One of the ideas will secure a small investment. And so all of the mini teams will work on that winning project for month 3 to bring it to fruition as much as possible. So that is it in a nutshell. I would be delighted to hear your questions. Please do feel free.
Thank you so much, Arantxa, for explaining all of that. I do have one question before we kick it off to questions at the end of the presentation. And I'm curious as to what skills your gappers develop during the program of either Spain by Train or Future Leaders.
Okay, so for Spain by Train, Spanish language is a very big focus. So for those who are beginners, you're welcome to come on the program. If you're interested in learning Spanish, you can come and learn from zero. You will develop intermediate skills throughout the 3 months if you take the opportunity to really be immersed in the context that we offer and the activities. And for those who are intermediate, most people who come with a medium base of Spanish leave with fluent Spanish. We sometimes also get heritage Spanish speakers and native speakers who come get qualified in DELE, so you can do your Spanish examinations while you're here as well. So that's one hard skill. Cooking, as I mentioned earlier, and of course for Future Leaders, the work experience are hard skills that will stand to you for the rest of your life. And then in terms of soft skills, we work a lot on communication with peers, with our team, and of course in going into work experience as well. But for Spain by Train, very much too. We help you with time management. We help you with budgeting. When we do group living accommodation, we give you the group a budget, and each pair of gappers has to budget, shop, and cook for the group once a week. When we're in Madrid, in Barcelona, and the Camino de Santiago, of course, with your program leaders' help and supervision. But again, with the intention of helping you prepare for going to college later on or work life, if you're choosing to do that afterwards.
Well, thanks again, Arantxa. Next up, we're finally going to hear from Nick at Art History Abroad.
AHA equips you with. Ooh, thank you. Thanks very much. Do you know, thanks, Drew. We might as well just start with the film. That would be great. Thank you. Some great tools for the rest of your life. It's really about learning how to use your eyes, how to be observant, and how to be creative.
So there's a huge space for you to kind of develop your own critical thinking.
We want to encourage an enthusiasm, studying something for the love that we have for it. There are no exams, no homework. We want everyone to have fun.
A 6-week course on AHA averages about 6 hours of teaching a day, which makes up one entire university year.
And all of the tutors, you can tell, really love what they're doing and teaching.
Teaching on site, in front of these masterpieces, in front of these objects, can be a completely transformative experience.
You have the privilege to actually be there with the artwork and learn about it at the same time.
There's some extraordinary visits that include a visit to St. Mark's Basilica in Venice.
That was amazing. That was genuinely unreal. I will remember that forever.
In Rome, we find ourselves unlocking the doors to the Vatican.
I've never seen something so beautiful and just utterly breathtaking. One of the best experiences I have ever had.
It's a whole new experience. It's not just you're going and seeing art and architecture.
We learned to cook. Pasta, of course.
The food was so good.
I did not think it was that simple to make pasta, so I'll be giving that a try when I get home.
I really loved our Italian lessons with Angie.
We went to Ischia, we went on this beautiful hike, overlooking the sea.
The paper marbling was pretty cool. It was like I'm doing my own version of what we've seen on the trip.
I think it's quite a unique experience because you wouldn't be able to find like a gold leaf workshop or a private tour of the Vatican.
It adds that je ne sais quoi to the travelling that is just special.
The programme is so much more than just the sites we visit too. It's the meals we have together, the streets we walk down, and the conversations we have. It's sometimes more about friendship than anything else.
It's very beautiful to follow the growing path of a person and of a student. You know, at the beginning they might have been a bit more reluctant towards art, and then towards the end they've kind of been really captured by it.
So I definitely think confidence is something that is encouraged on AHA and something that is kind of drawn out of you, even if you don't have that much, which is great.
It really brings people together and form what really does become a family.
If there is one thing that we want to teach people while they're on this course, it's this intangible sense of learning, of experiencing, purely for the love of it, for discourse, for fun, for the utter joy of living. Cool, great, thank you. I hadn't actually seen that in one piece before. That's rather nice. That's really good. Okay, and that I think what we say at the end is kind of what we mean. There are no credits. There are no essays. There's everything to encourage people to do what their mind and where their mind takes them, but not it's not prescribed, and it is for no other purpose other than the simple exploration of your mind. If you think for a moment that all the way through a schooling career, you're told what to do. And when you get to university, you're guided to what you need to do, but encouraged to get on with it yourself. And in a way, what we do is could be described as a pre-university course. It's encouraging the intellectual confidence in students to explore and to become able. We teach in small groups of 8. I think it was made the point on the film that all the teaching is on site. There's no lecture room. There's no lecture room. But everything, we're by teaching in small groups of 8, and with young and engaging tutors who are all experts in their field. I think it means it facilitates conversation apart from anything else. I started art history abroad when I was 23. Sadly I'm not 23 anymore, but I recognized then that it was really important to have young tutors who are not so very distant in age from the students, simply because you understand a world together. Art history as a subject has changed a great deal since I started, and so now there's so much more on gender, for example, and that's something that I don't necessarily teach very well, but younger tutors do, and they're more relevant. So we tend to keep up with, if you like, academic progress as it shifts. And you know, I can't, well, even now, it's probably about 7 or 8 generations of tutors that have come through. Tutors will generally stay with us for about 4 to 5 years and then move on to other careers. Often in teaching, but some have gone on to do extraordinary things in auction houses and so on. We're after a pretty high level, if you like. One of the great things about art history is that you can hardly look at a church or a painting without, or a gallery or a museum, without at some point considering the philosophy, the music, the literature of the time. So art history is a great subject to branch out and make connections across curricula, whereas at school and at university, you're very much channeled down routes, and we tend to like to make things a little bit messy, if you like. Going into St. Mark's, you saw on the film, we go into St. Mark's, we go in after dark and privately, and it's one of the most visited places in the world and therefore greatly misunderstood. So we get the chaps to turn off all of the lights, and then we very gradually bring them up. And then you get the point of the ceiling, which is gold. And as you probably know, gold is also because gold never changes. It's an inert metal. It's often seen as a metaphor for heaven, and you suddenly get the point as the lights come up very gradually that actually you're looking at heaven while you lie on the floor. It's an extraordinary idea. And then when we go to the Vatican, again, hugely visited, thousands of people go there every day. So we go at dawn, we go at about 5 o'clock in the morning with the fellow who opens up all the doors. So we go into that great Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo. Just in terms of how long the course is and where we go, it can be anything from a 12-week course. We also have 6-week courses, and then we have 2-week courses in the summer. On the website, it's all very clear what we do and when we do it. There are courses running pretty well throughout the year in many respects. But we've focused on Italy, arguably, and I'm sorry, Arantxa, you probably will disagree. Arguably, there's more significant art in Italy than perhaps anywhere else in the Mediterranean basin. But I'll happily take that up with you afterwards. But that's why we go to Italy. And the course would, let's say on the 6-week course, we'd spend 10 days in Spain, not Spain, in Venice, forgive me, I've got you on my mind. We'd spend 10 days in Venice, followed by about 4 days in Verona. Then we go down to Florence for 10 days, to Siena for 4 or 5 days, then down to Naples for a few days. and then up to Rome for 10 days. So if you like, we do those major cultural sites for about 10 days. And as you saw on the film, it's broken up by time spending, doing fun things like making marbled paper and doing some cooking and things like that. But it would be misleading to say that it was anything other than the title suggests. It's about art history and the love of learning and the love of seeing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Nick. We're going to go ahead and hop into questions and answers from the audience. So if you're watching this and you have anything, please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. Nick, I will pose you one quick question, as I have done to our other providers real quick. And that is, what would you say are the lasting benefits of an AHA program?
They're lifelong. I think, I don't know about you, but I think that I must confess, when I finally die, I would quite like to have had the sensation of using myself up. We've all been given these lovely senses of sight and taste and touch and hearing and smell and all of that sort of thing. And I must confess, I would love to get to my deathbed and think, oh, I've used myself up. I've really said thank you by using it all. And I've spent a lifetime devoted to the visual world, and I am pretty good with my eyes. I'm a little bit worried about my musical taste. I don't think I've listened to enough. I've got to listen to more. Smell, I spent some time in Paris learning how to smell. So now I'm the most incredible perfume snob. And so it goes on. The point about the course is that you come on a course for 6 weeks, but then you learn how to look for the rest of your life. And whenever you go into a gallery or stuck on a train station waiting to go somewhere, there is always something to look at. There is always something to analyze. And that's the point of what we do. That's the lasting benefit.
That's a fantastic sentiment. Thanks for sharing, Nick. So with that, I do see a question in the chat from Meredith. Can you do the Spanish Gap Year program during college, or does it have to be done before or after? And while I see that Arantxa, looks like you did mention that in the chat, I'd love to open that up to all of our panelists, starting with Julia. I'm curious, as our resident gap year expert for the evening, what do you tend to see for trends in the gap year world these days? Is the best time to do a gap year between high school and college, or do you see a lot of students doing it in between college or even after? And after Julia, I'll open it up to the rest of our programs to talk more specifically.
Sure. So I think, like I said before, I think that it's important to look for natural breaks in formal education, because I think that that is when a student is going to have the most, start from the most positive place, because there is like that natural space that you can take in between different journeys in your, higher education pathway. I will say that I have seen an increase in students taking time out from their college experience to take a gap year or gap semester. And that has been a direct result of the pandemic. So students may have started college at a place that they weren't able to tour, or they didn't know very well because of these complications that we've seen over the past few years. And so they needed to take a gap year to kind of reassess, were they going to the right school? Were they doing the right major? So I tend to see mid-gap years being from a point of needing further exploration around their college experience and needing to make either a different choice by transferring, or kind of reassess their educational journey. Whereas the before or after college students that I tend to see are a little bit more about the experience and personal growth aspect of things. So there's really no wrong time to take a gap year. In fact, I'd much rather see students take gap time during their college experience than not at all, because I think it really can help you reframe what you want out of your college experience and see what you need to do next.
I would say from my experience personally, I did not take a gap year. And if looking back on my college experience, I think I would have loved to have taken a gap semester between my third year and my fourth year of my major. I actually studied architecture, and third year is a really hard year for that. And towards the end, you're kind of burnt out. My fourth year is actually when I decided not to go into architecture, and it would have been great to have actually had that gap in between to figure out what I wanted to do. All I knew is what I didn't. And so I think that definitely there's room to go in the middle of college years for sure.
But at the moment, we're seeing an uptake in people coming either during college or after college. Around 2000, it used to be about 20%, and then it dropped off completely, and now it's coming back, and it's very welcome. It kind of rebalances the atmosphere on a course. It's quite nice.
Yes, I agree with all of that. We see gappers join us after high school, during college, and some after as well. So we encourage everyone to take gap time.
And I know recently going around to all the gap fairs, I had a lot of parents say, can I go? And I'm like, you know what? An adult gap fair would be, or gap program would be amazing. We should definitely look into those.
Great. Well, with that, we have gone a little bit over on time, but I would just like to say thank you so much to all of you for tuning in, whether it be live right now or recorded after the fact. If you are with us live, now is your final chance to hop into the chat. There's some amazing resources to connect with all of these providers and continue the next step of your gap year exploration. A huge thank you to our providers for spending their Tuesday night with us, especially some of our friends over in Europe, where it's an especially late Tuesday night with us. And to all of you, we wish you the best of luck in your gap year planning. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.